Hey, this is Craig Ballantyne from Early to Rise Radio, and welcome back for another special edition with my girlfriend, Michelle.
Hello, thank you for having me yet again.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be, the last time we talked with Michelle was about branding and confidence and building your online business and video stuff too. This time, people want to know the dirt. You ready to give it to them?
All right,
Yeah.
sure am.
So many people have been saying, hey, Craig, I read the Perfect Day Formula and your vision for meeting your wife and all that stuff. And, now that I found it, got lots of congratulations, but a lot of questions too. You know what they've been asking?
What?
Come on, guess.
How did you meet?
That's exactly it. So we will cover that. We're going to cover how we met on Instagram, which is a pretty funny story. When we met, which is also a funny story. And then some more really in-depth stuff like the vision exercises that we use together to look at our future. Some of Michelle's favorite tips for having confidence and just having a great life in general. So we're going to learn a lot and have a lot of fun on this show. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Awesome. All right, so why don't you start? You want to start with how we met?
Oh, who's going to actually tell this story? Are
Well,
you going to tell it?
I'll have you tell your version, and then I'll fill in any details that I think are funny.
Okay, well, it was just over a year ago. And
So that would have been late 2019.
late 2019, end of November.
Mm-hmm.
I got a message from a friend in Toronto. Her name is Vanessa.
Shout out to Vanessa Ortali.
Yeah, and she said, "Hey girl, are you single?" And, and there's always like that question of like, who's asking, like could be single, could not be single, but I was definitely single. And I said, depends. And then she said, I've got this, really great guy. And she gave me this like huge long bio, like he's this, he's that, he's, whatever. And
He's whatever, all right.
and she sent me a picture of him. So then naturally I went to his Instagram profile because this was Instagram that Vanessa and I were chatting on. I said, seems legit. Seems like a decent guy,
That's exactly men out there. That's exactly the first impression you're looking from a lady is, does she think I'm legit or not?
Seems legit, and seems like he's pretty confident. He makes these videos and screams at the phone, and they're interesting. I watched a few of them before I responded to Vanessa, and okay, yeah. Lives in Toronto. That's a bit of a problem because I was living in Vancouver at the time. I was living in Toronto for the year before that. So
you had just moved back to Vancouver like 2 months before that, right?
Yeah, I'd moved back to Vancouver in August, and then now this was November. So I was like, I'll take the intro, but I really wasn't thinking anything of it. I knew one thing though, I was not doing long distance, at all. I was at a point in my life where I was just like, I want to meet someone that's serious, that's not just like this, sweet talk from across the country, like telling you all sweet nothings.
Sweet talker. So note, here I am, two things. I'm legitimate and a sweet talker from across the country.
Well, I didn't even talk to you then, but this is just like the conversation that's going on inside of my head. So anyways, didn't think much of it. So I said to Vanessa, I said, yeah, sure. You can give us an intro. So then I guess she possibly messaged you. Mm-hmm. And then he had just had his hair transplant.
Second hair transplant.
Yeah. And his forehead was so incredibly swollen. And he made a comment about just had some wicked Botox, or just looks like I had some wicked Botox.
Yeah, because I had made a Instagram story about the hair transplant, from the day before, and I was showing everybody because I'm not embarrassed by it or anything. And what happens is, you have a lot of holes put in your head and there's a lot of swelling, and it just starts coming down over your face for the next 2 weeks. And for that I think it was the first 24 hours, your head, the front of your head is got banged up pretty good. And I made it, but it's also, there's no wrinkles in it because it's all just swollen. Yeah. So I made a joke that it looked like I had Botox.
And this girl loves some Botox. So of course I had to mention a comment about the Botox. So I commented on his story about that, and then we just started chatting.
Well, yeah, so here's an interesting thing, is Michelle thought I was a confident person because I make these videos. But as an introvert, yelling into a camera or a phone, it's not really that hard because it's like a performance. But I'm not necessarily that confident in one-on-one interactions. The introvert in me comes out. Michelle, you're pretty confident. You start conversations. You made the first comment because Vanessa, our friend, had sent me like, hey, send her a message, she's expecting it. And I was like, oh man. Then I was like a 14-year-old boy, I didn't know what to say, but she saved the day by sending the first message in response to the Botox. So
yeah, but then you were fine once I opened up that conversation.
Third thing,
about
I'm
Botox.
fine. Yeah. And then, but it just was a whole lot easier. And so then we got into a bunch of conversations. I'll let you keep going if you want to keep going from there.
Yeah, so kind of circling back to the thought process in my head, like, I don't know if this is serious. I don't want to do this long distance thing. I said to him, I would say within the first day or two, 48
definitely
hours.
within the first week, yeah.
Yeah, that, if you're serious, then you need to come to Vancouver and spend some time with me because I am not
Although
doing
you said
this.
you said it in a different way.
How did I say it?
I think you said like, so when are you coming to Vancouver? And you used the emoji girl like picture.
Yeah.
Right? So it wasn't like, if you're serious about... Like,
no, but that's I'm saying what was in my head.
Sure.
Because like, if this guy's serious, then he's going to come. So,
Yeah.
so my bluntness was, when are you coming to Vancouver?
But in a joking way, yeah.
I wasn't joking.
Well, it was in a smiley way as opposed to a, but...
I wouldn't have got very far with
No,
you if I was
obviously
like,
not, no.
I was inquiring
Yes.
because if you want to continue to, message me all day long, I want to know, like, you look like your videos and
Right.
all that stuff with online.
Legit. I want to be
Yeah.
legit in person,
Yeah.
not just on the interwebs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then
Then he came.
Yeah. So then we'll get to that in a moment and first impressions of me in person. But just to fill in a little bit of the backstory. So if you've ever read my Perfect Day Formula book, in chapter 23 or 21 or 25 or something, there's the vision, right? The vision that I wrote in 2015 when I first wrote that book. And then it says, in 2020, I'll be at this house and I'll be with my family and blah, blah, blah. And I remember in late 2019, just a few weeks before we met, I had my annual Perfect Life Retreat. We had 300 people there. And the day after, I did a very small, intimate workshop with about 6 people. It's one of my high-end programs. And I shared this goal of 90-day goals of I want to go and, meet a girl. And there was, I had broken it down into steps of like, I'm going to go and ask my friend Vanessa for introductions. And a few days after, I think it was a week after, one of the people who was at the event, this guy, Jamie from New Zealand, Jamie McKean from New Zealand, really great guy. He sent me a message and he said, he was following up on his work that he was doing for his own life. And he said, how's that going with Vanessa? Have you asked her? And I was like, oh, dang, I haven't done anything. I feel like a bit of a hypocrite. So I went, Vanessa, can you introduce me to like some really great girls? So Vanessa's awesome. She sends me back. The reason why I asked Vanessa is because she knows a lot of women because she runs something called the Toronto Ladies Business Community, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ladies Community. And, she knows a lot of very smart, funny, beautiful women like Michelle, right? And so I asked Vanessa for like some introductions. So she sends me 5 Instagram profiles. And I look at them and I look at the profiles and I go, nope. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm that guy. I'm an ingrate, I'm a horrible person. And so I was like, what am I gonna do? So I decided to go into Vanessa's Instagram and I looked at who she was following. And I started going through all of the women that Vanessa followed, and I got through like 30 of them, and her picture just stopped me. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It was this picture that Michelle had, she had done a professional photo shoot when she was in Toronto, and it stopped me. I went to her page. I was like, this girl's really cute. And I thought she lived in Toronto. So I said, hey, Vanessa, what about this girl? Hey, what's wrong with me? Why didn't you send me this girl? And she said, well, Michelle lives in Vancouver now. She used to live in Toronto. And I said, well, I'd still like to meet her. And then that's when Vanessa made the introduction to Michelle. Michelle looked at my hair transplant story, made the Botox comment. Then we got in the conversation. And so those were the only missing things from Michelle's explanation. But again, here's the thing. This didn't start in 2019. This started in 2015, and really even before that with my vision for what I wanted my life to look like. And then you really had your own vision of what you would like to see in a man and what you want in your future, right? Mm-hmm. And how did you get thinking about that stuff? Does it come naturally to you, or did somebody inspire you to think like that, or were you just at a point in your life when you started thinking about that?
I think it came from dating a lot of the wrong types of people. And I think, you know, how you explain things like action like beats anxiety. Well, just like action gives you clarity too, right? So, I mean, when you are in the dating phase and you are looking for that person, I think just taking note of that, right? Taking note of that, like, oh, I really like this quality of a person and I really like this quality of a person. And then you kind of start to create this like ideal person in a way. Now, it's funny because, you know, you could have it in your head as like, he looks like this and he does this for work and whatever, but sometimes it doesn't always work out to be like that. And Craig and I were talking about what his description of his perfect girl was. And I bug him about this all the time because he's just like, it was a simple girl.
Yeah, girl next door, simple girl.
And I was like
grade 1 teacher, you know.
Honey, I'm not a simple girl. No.
No, but in the end is it's more you're more accurate of what I want than the simple girl
because you don't know what you want sometimes, and that's exactly what I'm saying is like you can do all of these like I want her to be this tall or whatever, all these physical things, and then I want them to give to charity and da da da. But it's like
or have this job or whatever.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, maybe that was like some programming from when I was younger or what my parents thought I wanted that just kind of stuck within you, and then you know once you're like, actually no, I'm more into this kind of personality. This suits my lifestyle better now. So I think the best thing that you can do is date a lot of people and see what qualities really click with you so that when you meet that person, you're like, aha, got it. Yeah. This person might not be this type, but he definitely checks off all of these deeper core values, core layers.
Okay, so this is us now. Who were you in your younger years? What were you interested in? What did you want to become? Walk us through that stuff. People really, really want to meet Michelle.
Yeah, okay, so let's start back in high school. So my aunt was a hairstylist, and I first started coloring my hair when I was 12 years old. We did blonde highlights throughout my hair. It wasn't like crazy, just, you know, like sun-kissed kind of like blonde. And so I always became really fascinated. I was always very creative. And there was an opportunity when I was 15 to go to hairdressing school. So I was like, yeah, sign me up. I'm not really, you know, I never really did well in high school. And I was told I had a learning disability. So, you know, failing multiple classes, I was just in a point where I was like, maybe this school thing isn't for me. So how can I still graduate, but do something more creative and something that I really love? So I went to hairdressing school. I ended up doing the program for a year. So by the time I graduated high school, I also had my hair license as well, which was pretty cool. So I started working in a salon right away. And that was cool. I worked at this little cute boutique salon. And I had this feeling that there was like something more. You know, I always looked very high level at things like what could this job look like in 5 years, in 6 years? And I was like, okay, well, I could own a salon. I could become a senior stylist. I could, you know, do hair shows all over the world. Like that was a bit higher. I was like, that's like a 7 level, but I was like, how do I get to that 10 level? So then I, you know, thought about it for a while, and I was still doing hair for a few years. And then I got an opportunity to work for Jägermeister and Grey Goose and Heineken and lots of different alcohol brands, representing them as a promotional model. So I did that. I kind of phased out of the hair industry, and I wasn't really feeling like I was in a space where I could really be creative. It was at a salon in the suburbs where every woman came in and wanted this much cut off her hair, and oh my goodness, don't take an inch off because that's gonna ruin my whole appearance. And it was like, okay, and blonde highlights and solid colors. And I was like, where can I do some like cool asymmetrical haircuts? Like, I want purple hair, I want pink hair.
You don't like to do the same thing every day.
Nah, I like variety. I like variety. That's what like keeps my passion on fire. So anyways, long story short, got bored. I got bored of the hair industry, and then I did the alcohol promotional model thing for 4 years. So it was a great job. I mean, in my early 20s, I was going around, I was getting paid to party, a lot of late nights.
I was never paid to party. Always paying to party.
Yeah, no, it was the opposite for me. But a lot of fun. And then it was at the point where I was like, you know, I'm tired of this. I'm tired. And I wanted to do something. You know, I had my hair diploma, and then it was like, I was doing all this nightclub stuff, but there was something else. There was like that gut feeling inside of me that was like, this isn't right. You're meant for something different. So again, kind of like that thought process in my head from high school, I was like, but I'm not good at school. Like,
because too many people had told you that?
Yeah, and I had these assessments done, and I had a special tutor that sat with me for every one of my tests, you know, and like, oh, which one is it, A, B, or C? You know, and I was like, oh, B, duh, you know? And so from a very young age, I was not confident in my abilities to read, to write, to comprehend information. So
does that stop you in doing anything today?
No, I think it's always that like little voice inside of my head that kind of like flashes back every so often, and then I have to just be like, nope, on your way, you know, because I've now spent years and years and years of reprogramming that message. But I always feel like whenever there's something that happens to you at a young age, you know, there's still kind of those
absolutely
shadows, or you know, that comes. So
they're handcuffs in a way, whether they're self-limiting beliefs, confidence stuff, you know, labels are really damaging. Have been for me, have been for Michelle, probably have been for you too, but I've shaken them, Michelle's shaken them, and you can too.
Yeah. So then it was this kind of push-pull that I was dealing with inside of me, because I was like, oh, do I do this school thing and then risk failing? You know, now I'm paying for it. And I said, yeah, might as well. So I went to a community college in my area, and I did a public relations diploma. And I thought it was going to be like Samantha on Sex and the City, you know, organizing parties. And I was like, I know how to do that, but it's like more of a business kind of thing, and socializing and that kind of thing. And then I did the 2 years, and it still wasn't what I was looking for. I was like, it's a lot of writing. I'm not really that good at writing. So why am I putting myself in things that I'm not really good at? I'm really good with people. I'm really good at organizing events and that kind of thing at the time. So then I was like, well, I might as well just keep going with the school thing, because now I've got the foundations. So then there was this program in Victoria, which is Vancouver Island, and then I went straight through.
What was it?
My degree in communications.
Okay.
So then I had my degree, and then I was old enough now that, you know, because I spent all those years doing hair and doing all of the alcohol stuff, then I decided to do my master's in marketing and branding in England.
Yeah, so you went to what was it, London, or was it Kingston, or what was it?
So the university was Kingston University in London.
Okay, so you came back.
Southwest.
Yeah, so then what was like a big lesson that you learned along the way, whether it was running up against something that made you persistent, or something that, you know, in a hard time you realized like this is a key to success?
I think the biggest, it still makes me smile when I think back to it, because getting my diploma, so just getting that 2-year diploma, I was like, wow. I felt more on top of the world getting that than I did getting my master's degree, because it was proving to myself that I could do it. And, you know, when you put your mind to something, and when you really, really want something badly, you will figure out a way to do it. And so I think that was a big moment in my life.
Did having like a chip on your shoulder inspire you through that? Like with being labeled, you know, the learning disability and all that stuff, did it fire you up to go harder on that? Is that why it meant so much to you?
Maybe subconsciously. I don't think like I'm naturally a super competitive person, so I wasn't like, oh, I'll prove them wrong. But I think something inside of me was like, you know what, let's do this for you. Let's do this. I don't really care what the teachers said, you know, when I was 15 or whatever. I don't really care about those people. But it was just like for myself to know that I am capable, and that I can actually read, and I can write, and I can do the thing that other people can do, because I felt very isolated. I felt like I was at a different level than like the mass like population.
So for people out there who we're raising their hand and going, I've put labels on myself, or somebody's put labels on me, or I went through a traumatic experience where there's labels applied to me. What were some of the techniques and tools that you've used over the years, whether at a young age or even recently, to overcome those? And what, you know, tactical advice would you give to somebody to take action on today?
I think the first thing comes from just truly identifying the conversation that you're having inside your head. And something interesting was, for me, identifying whose voice is that? You know, we talk about this like negative voice inside of our head. Like, if you actually think to yourself and you look at your mind like two parts, you've got you and then you've got your mind, who is actually whispering? Is it an aunt? Is it an uncle? Is it, you know, someone that you ran into on the street? Because once you separate your thoughts, you can actually identify what's true and what's false. The mind is a complex thing, but just like being able to separate, identify where that voice is coming from and send it on its way, has been super helpful for me.
How did you do that? Like, I remember we both read The Untethered Soul, and there's a bit of that in there, and recognizing that there's this voice in your head and then there's a true you. What other techniques did you use? Was it some of the meditation that you did, or visualization, or journaling?
Yeah, so I do quite a bit of meditation, and I used to spend a lot of time on it when I was kind of going through this deep healing phase of my life. And journaling and silence does a miracle. Yeah. Just really being able to breathe and to sit with your thoughts and to really just listen to the conversation that's happening in your head. Like, check in with yourself. Like, how are you feeling today? Feeling a bit off? Like, why is that? And just really being able to listen to your own thoughts. And, it's kind of an abstract kind of thought process, if you've never spent that time just kind of deeply looking from, within. But just really sit with yourself and really journal anything that comes out, just free write, journal, and then start to group things together. And you might start to see some patterns throughout. So I would start with that.
And then you have something in the programs that you teach with your clients, you have something called the Daily Magic. Let's explain that to everybody, what that is and how it can be beneficial for them, in not just in overcoming the labels and the negative voice, but just in general.
Yeah, so the Daily Magic is 30 minutes that I have my clients go through every single morning. And that is to really get your mind right. We can create these fabulous brands. I can teach you how to sell. I can teach you all these things. But if you get up in the morning and you just aren't feeling so hot, you need to really get your mind into that go, go, go mode that got you into being an entrepreneur in the first place. So the first thing we do is mind, and each of the things are 10 minutes long. So we spend 10 minutes on your mind, and you have a list of mind exercises that work for you, because I truly believe you need to experiment and you need to play with it. You need to say, is journaling for me? Is meditating for me? And pick one of those things depending on the day, what your body needs. This is truly a great exercise in listening to what you need for that day. Not every day is going to look the same. Some things might happen the night before that you really need to address. So I give my clients a list of mind exercises to do, just 10 minutes. Then movement. Movement is so, so important. And, walking has done wonders for me. So just 10-minute walk, just go around the block, just get some fresh air. If it's snowing outside or if the weather's not nice where you are, stretching, yoga, dancing in the shower.
Interpretive dance,
whatever works for you that you can move around your house, or jumping jacks, I don't know, whatever it is that you need for that day for 10 minutes. So, so important. And then lastly, nourish. You want to nourish your body 10 minutes with something that's going to soothe you. So some people that's a coffee, and that's okay. Some people that's lemon water. Some people that's a smoothie, avocado toast, hard-boiled eggs, whatever that thing is for you that makes you feel really, really good first thing in the morning is so important.
Yeah, so you can see, obviously, I have a very hardcore morning routine, and Michelle has a slightly different approach. Walk through what all the morning routines that you've tried and why you settled on this one, and how important it is for everybody just to do that mental research and think for themselves about a morning routine.
Because there's so many different morning routines, and they all have the same intention to get you set up for the day. But truly, everyone's lifestyle is different. And so the most important thing is that you experiment with finding the right groove for you. And I typically don't do the same thing every day. And that's what's worked really well for me. I still, like I said, I touch on the mind, I do movement, I do nourish. Those are the same categories that stay the same. The timing stays the same. But for me, I'm not gonna spend 10 minutes every morning meditating, because that's not gonna serve me every single day. But maybe journaling will, but maybe breathing, breath work will. So the best thing that you can do is to really just experiment with different formulas that work for you.
And it's very important to note that, Michelle does that, but then, just like I teach, she does, get into that number one priority first thing before we go to the dog park. And so I know a lot of people used to tease me all the time, you'll never find a woman who likes to go to sleep as early as you do, and they won't like you getting up early in the morning. So why don't you explain your rituals and routines and prove them wrong and go through and say, before we get to the dog park in the morning, which is around 7:30 or 8, all the stuff that you have done because you get up at a time that's right for you.
Yeah, so my mornings are my precious time. I love the mornings. I always have, even before Craig and I were together. I've always been an early night, early morning kind of person. And I just feel most inspired in the morning. But one of the biggest shifts that I've had in my morning is doing the hard work first. And the hard work for me is different. It's different, every single day, and it's different every single week. So I get up at 5:30. I do my mind. I do my 10-minute mind. I have my coffee because that's what nourishes me. And then I do some light stretching. I do some light movement, and then 30 minutes later, it's 6 o'clock, and I'm ready to get to work. So for me, I work on content creation most of the time in the morning because it's silent. I feel the most inspired. It's the most creative time for me.
I'm not yelling on the podcast.
Yeah, he's not on calls usually unless it's like Europe or something, but usually those are later in the day. But yeah, I feel the most inspired, and I just spend 60 minutes, so from 6 until 7, doing that. And then I will say, I have met a lot of focused people. This woman is right up near the top. She is a focused woman when she latches onto something, which is actually something that can almost be a double-edged sword, because if I say like, hey, we need to figure out what we're going to do for a vacation, you can latch onto that and just be so super focused on it that it actually disrupts your work. So I got to be very careful about when I bring up fun topics. Must be later in the day, right? Yeah, because I get very distracted easily too.
Yeah, so you're super focused and can be easily distracted, so you just need to manage that. But you do it in a great way. And so 7 o'clock, you've crushed a ton of work, so you're more productive than most people are before noon. Then what?
And then I go to the gym at 7:30. And this is something that I've shifted. I used to go to the gym later on in the day, but honestly, lately, the gym has been really hard for me to do. I haven't felt inspired to work out lately. And I just feel like once it's 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, I'm like, I'm gonna have lunch instead. And then I don't end up doing it. And then I get angry at myself. So lately, I have shifted my workouts to earlier on in the morning. And that has been amazing for me. That's been amazing for my energy, my stress, everything, just getting that. And it's just cardio. I'm just doing like 30 minutes of cardio from 7:30 till 8 at our place. And I just feel so alive. Then we take the dog to the dog park and then get
Highlight of the day, absolutely.
Yeah.
You mentioned that sometimes you get mad at yourself. We all get mad at ourselves. How do you get out of the spiral? So many people email or post in the Perfect Day Facebook and say, I got off track. I'm so disappointed in myself. And then they feel like it's almost like they can't get the day back on track. But that's all you can do is get back on track. So what's your advice for when you're if you feel like beating yourself up for something and yelling at yourself and you are off track, what do you do? How do you fix it?
I really take it back to what I can control. Okay, so if something happens that I can't control and it's just a crappy situation, I go back to, okay, that's unfortunate. What can I control? Well, I can control what I eat. I can control, the mindset that I have. And yeah, it is a struggle sometimes to kind of get out of that funk. But what really works for me is going outside. Is going outside and going for a walk. Going to the coffee shop, getting myself a tea or something, and then coming back and I just feel brand new. Like, there's just something about that movement, which is part of my morning. But sometimes it's just bringing that back in the middle of the day and just getting outside, listening to something positive, might be a podcast that you really like that makes you feel really good inside, or, a YouTube video or something like that. Just like quick 15, 20 minutes, give yourself that permission to just do something that makes you feel good. Forget about work and just drop that, and just 20 minutes coffee, tea, go outside, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. So you can tell, like, if there's ever any grumpy people in our house, it's because there hasn't been the workout. I get grumpy if I haven't gotten my workout in, and, I can tell Michelle's slightly off. It's definitely, there needs to be that exercise in the morning for both of us. So let's switch it back now. So we've talked a lot about ourselves here. Let's go back, because people are like, okay, so this guy flies out to Vancouver to meet you. What's your first impression when I walk in the door?
Dang!
He's legit.
He's legit.
And fine,
He didn't lie about his height.
No.
That's a thing,
How old did you think I was at first?
Oh gosh, I don't remember. Definitely not your age, just to stroke the ego a little bit.
Yes, that's the only reason I asked the question.
I know you want to be told you don't look 48.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
No, 48. It's the hair transplants. Okay, so first impression, other than that, like...
Handsome, quiet, which was a big thing for me, because then, when he's really good at texting, and it was a lot of emojis and a lot of humor and stuff like that. And
Because
then
it's copywriting.
Right, which he's good at and I'm not. So I'm much better in person than I am online. So it's funny because we're the opposite. You know, I'm getting better at video, but I'm really good in person. But when it comes to this like camera thing, I'm like, oh, hello. And it was more awkward for me. But you were the opposite. So first impression would be like you were handsome, you were a bit shy. So I was like, oh, maybe he's a bit nervous, which is normal.
Sure. For the introvert, right? I mean, the introvert in me coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, you know, there is a lot of differences. Like, Michelle, you love, well, I don't know if you love it, but you're so good at talking to people at the airport. So the other day we were flying and there was a problem with our seats. I'm the kind of guy who would have been like, okay, I guess there's nothing they can do. And I would just slink back to the waiting area and be like passively aggressively mad. You spent like an hour and a half talking to everybody. You probably talked to like 7 different people. You managed your energy and tonality based on the personality of the other individual you were chatting with, and sure enough, you got your way. And I've seen this happen over and over and over again. Like last night when you were talking to the customer service for the phone company, like she was, you know, talking about her plan, and by the end of the call, she had all the fees waived and like saved $200. And I'm like, how did you do that? Like, first of all, I would have just accepted that nothing could have been done. And it wasn't like you raised your voice. You just build this amazing rapport with people. And you don't think it's a big deal. And so you might not be able to explain it, but is there anything that you can say to people about how to have better conversations and these magical talents that you seem to have?
I think the biggest thing is to drop your frame. And what I mean by that is if you're going into the airport with, I bought this extra seat and you're this entitlement.
Well, we bought a seat for the dog, but
Yeah.
we had to buy an extra seat, like an overweight person buys an extra seat. So we had done that, but then we were trying to explain that it was for the dog, and they had already given the seat away. And anyways, you did this.
Yeah, so it was a whole thing. And, you know, I could have gone in with this, you know, I paid for this, how dare you, which is, you know, I'm sure you've seen those women or men at the airport or wherever that, you know, you're just like,
do you know who I am?
Yeah, it's like, no, I don't want to. But I think it's all about when you deal with people, you need to understand they are people. And, you know, whoever booked my ticket across the world is not the person I'm talking to now. It is not their fault. It is the systems they have in place, whatever, you know. So I think just recognizing that with any kind of conflict that you come into, and just understanding that, yeah, they are people, they are doing their job. This is a stressful time right now for everybody, and just coming in with a bit of compassion, understanding, and a work with me kind of approach, you know. And I think bringing in your feelings to it instead of demands comes a long way with building rapport.
Yeah, and so on our last podcast, we talked about how Michelle has helped me be so much better on video and so many of these other things, but simply becoming a better listener, better in conversation with people, better at asking questions. Man, I've just improved like exponentially since we've met. So as we wrap things up here, you know, that was a fun memory of us. We flew with Daisy. We've flown probably like 6 times with Daisy. Michelle did all this homework to find the best economy row. We saved a ton of money by not flying business class. And it was probably our best flight with her. And it'll be a fun memory. And we've had so many great memories. What are some of your favorite memories of year 1 of the Craig and Michelle show?
Before I get to that, I just want to tell you, if you ever fly with your dog, business class, if you're in the pods, typically have like a little rounded part for the wheels. And if you've got a big dog, they can't lay flat. So go for the bulkhead first row in economy. Yeah. She gets like a princess bed.
Yeah, it was really, really great. But buy the extra seat for the dog. But still, it was like $900 for 3 seats versus, you know, 1 seat was like $2,000. So yeah, that was really great.
A value,
and everybody loves the dog. Yeah. All of these, like the flight attendants just stop, pet the dog for like 5 minutes and wake her up. But we've got Daisy down. You get her a real hard workout in the morning, and she just slept for 5 hours. It was her best flight yet.
Yeah.
Back to the memory.
Yeah, back to the memory. Just had to add that side note of value in there for you. Best memory of this year. Is that what you asked me?
Well, some of your favorites. Yeah.
I think the learning and the growth that I have had personally has been amazing. And to have a partner so supportive, so understanding, so patient has been really, like, I can't even explain it. It's just been so wonderful. You know, my past has been a lot of action and a lot of like messiness and a lot of just like not stability. And meeting someone who is so consistent, everything this guy says, he does. I've never met someone so legit in that sense. Like, he gets up so early, the same time, every single day, and just, you're so inspirational. You truly are. And to be able to live with you and to be able to share this experience of life and to be your partner and to, you know, eventually add more to our family has just been the most amazing experience ever.
Well, that's really sweet. Thank you.
But I mean, like, that's just like the mushy
Right,
side of things. Right. But I think traveling has been really good. I think you learn a lot when you travel with somebody. We had a great trip to California a year ago in January.
Pre-COVID, yeah.
We went to Miami together.
We went to Disneyland together.
So those are always great, right? Because you see each other in different environments.
I mean, you really want to test a relationship. Spend 45 minutes in line 6 times a day at Disneyland.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So one of my clients, he'll remain nameless, but he once said to me that his wife was starting to like him again. You know, because you marry somebody, you're in love with them, but if you're going to spend 50 or 60 or 70 years, you really need to like your spouse. And he said his spouse was starting to like him again. And I mean, yeah, I love Michelle. She's amazing, but I really, really like her. And I've never spent this much time together with one person in 10 years, let alone in 1 year. And we do all the things together. I never worked out with anybody before. I love going to the gym with her. You know, we hire a trainer. We have almost all our meals together. We spend so much time with Daisy. We travel together. We're really rarely apart because we really like each other. And it goes back to, there's one thing that I wanted to mention, that we're really different. You know, I have like this speed in the airport where I walk at about 7 miles per hour. And it's not like an exaggeration. I'm pretty sure I walk 7 miles per hour. Matt Smith calls it my airport speed. Michelle
and I'm
doesn't.
like, shop.
Yeah. So I've had to, accommodate, like, I'm very impatient, despite what she says about my patience. And she's got a different approach to life. So we are very different in some ways. But I think the most important thing is the core values are the same. The core values of constant and never-ending improvement. I think that we're both committed to that. We're both committed to helping other people. We're both committed to, self-growth, and those really deep values are the things that are shared, which then allow us to spend so much time together and like each other so much, which is truly the foundation of our love so far. So, I mean, that's been pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think too, I've said this to Craig so many times, like, he's really strong in the places that I'm really weak, and vice versa. Like, I am really strong in some areas that he's not strong. So I think, and our openness, we're able to, be like, hey, actually, there's a better way to do this. It's like this. And we're not like trying to compete with each other because we are really strong in different areas. So I think that's what really helps us too.
And I think you'd agree that in the first month of us, even meeting online, that we've had more difficult conversations than most people may have had in 2 years of marriage, 3 years, 5 years of marriage. And then that was just in the first month, let alone like deep conversations and challenging conversations. And we tend to have those all the time to push ourselves to improve. And, when Michelle mentioned doing the videos, like, oh, Craig's so good at that. And, she struggled with it at first, but I struggled with it at first too. You probably struggle with this at first too. Like, it's not natural for too many people. You just have to shift your mindset about it, and then it becomes a learnable skill. Just like I've learned the skill of listening, the skill of conversation. And Michelle on video now, I mean, she, like, let's just say she started out at a 4 out of 10. She's clearly at an 8 out of 10 now and can only get better. And she's committed to getting better, which goes back to our core value that we're both willing to accept that, okay, maybe I'm not great at this, or maybe I did screw up at this, me more on that side of things, like, okay, I screwed up on this. Teach me how to get better at it so that it doesn't happen in the future. So we are committed to that, and And then that's allowed us to have that foundation, I think.
You tell me, what was your favorite part of the year?
I would say, so I've always had like this anxiety about stuff, right? Like, oh my God, Daisy's first trip on a plane, or, you know, this moving across the country, or like, and Michelle's like, it's going to be fine. It's going to work out. And it always has. And then I would say that just the day-to-day stuff. I love my little rituals and routines. And, you know, she hasn't mentioned this, but, you know, her 10 minutes of moving in the morning is often just her dancing with Daisy. And it's really, truly one of my favorite parts of the day. When she gets up after doing her meditation, I've been up for about an hour and a half. I've done some work. It's time for a break. She gets up. Her and Daisy come into the little office and we do this little dance party. And that's probably like one of my favorite things. And then, you know, we explore lots of restaurants, and it's a lot of the day-to-day small stuff. And just also how every time that we go and visit my mom and we watch Hallmark movies and do stuff that doesn't come natural to me, but just how well you've blended in with my family. And then probably our trip to my sister's cottage, where, you know, my sister and I didn't get along very well, which now I realize is my fault. And we are friends now, but we had, you know, the entire families, the entire Ballantyne clan together. That was a pretty magical week. So I don't know, every single day has really, really good stuff, and I'm super grateful for it. Yeah, and then one thing we did recently that I want to share with people, because it's a teaching moment as well, is on American Thanksgiving Day. You know, it was obviously a slower day in my business, so I took the weekend off from electronics, called it a blackout weekend, which I challenge you to do for at least 4 hours every Sunday. Take some time free of your devices. But we sat down and we went through my workshop questions. So we did a full day of our vision and our planning for the new year, and we're going to make an annual ritual. And it was really powerful. Is there anything from that you want to share with people? Maybe it was like some of the things that we have planned, or some of the things that you learned from that, or some of the things that they should do?
Yeah, so I think it's so hard to think so far in advance sometimes when...
For some people. For me, it's natural.
Yeah, for me, it's hard because I'm very much so like, if I see it, if I feel it, like it becomes real. So for me, I've always done very more short-term planning, like, okay, what's the next few months look like? What's the next maybe year at max? Like, I never really thought too far in advance because things can change. You know, my nature is I'm very easily adaptable to new things, right? New experiences.
And one of my flaws is that I can get really anchored on something in the future. So, I mean, there are pros and cons to it. I said there's far more pros to planning in the future, but you know, Michelle, during our planning session, pointed out that I was really anchored on this forever home, which doesn't really make sense. Like, why do you have to have one home now for the rest of your life? No, we don't want to move like every year, but I was irrationally anchored to it. And so she challenged me on it. But that said, you know, the long-term planning was a challenge to her that she found some benefits in.
Yeah, and I mean, coming from a place like I moved, I think 13 times. Like, my dad loved to buy houses and flip them, like renovate a little bit. And so we were constantly moving. Actually, one year we moved twice. So it's like pack up all our stuff and then go. So I was always used to that constant go, go, go.
And I lived in the same house. I mean, my parents had the same house for 50 years. So you can see like the childhood experiences just absolutely shape you and can sometimes put handcuffs on you. And so you have to be very, very alert through the self-reflection on that.
Yeah. So it was overall really, really great experience to look past even just what I can kind of see and then to work backwards. Okay, so if this is what we're thinking in the next 5 years, what does that mean now? Like, where should we be looking for a house if we want to have kids? Like, is this the neighborhood we want to live in? And I'm like, whoa, this is organized. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So it was really, really great to see. And we felt really excited about it too.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
So if nothing else, and you've got the perfect day formula, you can go through that vision chapter, or just think, okay, what are the things I want to accomplish in 10 years? What do I want my life to look like in 5 years? Be very specific about your 1 year plan, and then look at the next 90 days. And we've got a lot of training on that as well, including some of my recent podcasts on the 90-day quarterly planning that you can go back and go through. And then if you want to, get help with that, then obviously go to craigballantyne.com/apply, and we can talk about the coaching there. Michelle, where can people find you and your website and you on Instagram? What are your website names and Instagram handle?
Yeah, so my website is michellecavanaugh.com. And
that's KAVANAGH.com.
Yeah, we'll put it on the screen right around here.
Yeah.
And then my Instagram is at Michelle Kavanaugh, but with 2 H's, and it's right here.
Yep. All right. And so, if you're a female entrepreneur who wants to launch a brand, grow your business, become confident, get better at video, man, you also work with men. You work with that Chris, the hairstylist guy, the other week, and totally changed his life. If you want to connect with Michelle, please do so there. And if you're hardcore and you want the Craig Ballantyne routine, you can contact me through all the ways that you can contact me. You know how to get a hold of me. But please go and do the vision from the Perfect Day Formula. Go back to my classic, and it will help you find the love of your life, live the life of your dreams, build the business of your dreams, all the good things. It's helped me do that multiple times, and I know it will for you too. So make sure you to now subscribe to my channel here and watch the next video, and keep going to the earlytorise.com or earlytoriseradio.com podcast. And we'll see you on the next Craig and Michelle show soon. If you want us to chat about something, let us know.